All right, it's that time again that I have another book review for you. So this time I actually don't have a physical copy of the book. I listened to it on Audible, on an audiobook, whatever. Anyway, I typically don't do that. I'm kind of a pen and paper sort of girl, so I kind of like the pages in front of me, that I'm flipping through or whatever. However, I did notice a benefit to listening to it in audio version is I can do laundry, I can wash dishes, I can listen with one earbud in and pay attention to my kids with the other. So that's kind of cool. I think from now on I might have a paper copy that I'm reading of some book, and then I might just do listen to an audio version of a different book and do it that way. So I'm gonna see how I can maybe get a graphic of this book that I read called In a Dark, Dark Wood by Ruth Ware. Awesome. It was really, really good. So listen to it. It takes place in England or London or whatever. So the girl who reads it has that accent. So it was kind of an interesting, something sort of different. So the premise of this book in general is, I do 30-minute reviews, so anyway. So what happens is this girl, she's a writer, she lives alone. She gets an email from a friend she hasn't heard of in 10 years, right? Since school or whatever. And this person, it's not actually from her. Okay, so the main girl's name is, oh my gosh, what is it? Oh, it's Lenora is her name. She used to go by Lee, but now she goes by Nora. So she gets this email. Nora gets this email from this girl named Flo or something. I think it's Flo. Anyway, she has no idea who this lady is. And this lady's like, hey, I need to invite you to a hen, which, by the way, if you're unfamiliar with that, it's their version of the bachelorette party. So Nora gets an invite from Flo for this lady named Claire, her hen party. Nora has no idea who Flo is, and she hasn't talked to Claire for about 10 years. And so she's trying to figure out why on earth she is invited to this hen out of nowhere, but not invited to the wedding. So she hits up her friend Nina. Nina's really cool. She's she's this doctor or whatever. She's pretty fun. She has a really bitter, sarcastic personality. I'm totally a fan of that. I want to be friends with Nina. So she hits up her friend Nina. Nina's like, yeah, I guess I'll go if you'll go. And Nora's like, okay, yeah, I'll go too. So she keeps flashing back between this nightmare of her running through the woods or whatever. So the chapters go back and forth between this nightmare of her running through the woods and being all bloody and stuff, and then her in present time. So she and Nina decide to drive up to this old cabin in the woods, which is where the hen party is being held. So they go up there together. Nora's freaking out. She doesn't understand why Claire's talking to her. They used to be best friends. And some situation went down. You don't know what it is. They don't talk anymore. So she's freaking out about seeing Claire. And Claire was always that perfect. She always had the perfect hair, the perfect clothes. She always acted perfectly. She was always just perfect all the time. And Nora just had to kind of deal. So she's nervous. Her and Nina get there. Flo's there. And then a car pulls up, and it's two people. It's this girl named Melanie, who's a new mom, and she just left her kid for the first time, and she's really preoccupied with that scenario. And then this guy who's apparently one of Claire's gay best friends or whatever, so he's there as well. So they all are like sharing different rooms or whatever. Nora and Nina are in one room, and I'm not really sure of the layout of the other. So turns out Nora's like freaking out about the scenario. Claire's not there yet. She's nervous to see Claire. She's like, I'm just gonna go for a run. So she decides to go for a run, and she's like running through the woods or whatever, and like she realizes it's getting dark, and so she's kind of getting nervous about it because she's like, oh crap, I don't like know this area. I don't want to be running in the dark. She's a runner. Goodness knows why. I wish I liked running. Anyway, so she like comes back and she like basically almost runs into a car. Turns out it's Claire. Her and Claire have this like really awkward exchange in the car. It's a situation or whatever. And so she ends up like, they end up like getting inside or something. Now, to be honest with you, I don't really remember when exactly. So, okay. So Nora is like, Claire, like, I don't mean to be rude, but like, why did you invite me? Like, we haven't talked for years. I'm trying to figure out like why I'm even here. And so Claire's like, look, I wanted to tell you this in person so you don't kind of like freak out. And obviously Nora's like freaking out already because like you tell somebody not to freak out before you tell them something, they're going to freaking freak out. So she's like, okay, what's up? Well, she's like, so I wanted you to know that the guy that I'm marrying, and Nora's like, yeah, who is it? And Claire's like, it's James. Well, James is apparently like Nora's ex-boyfriend. They dated for years. They like grew up together, blah, 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 blah. She hasn't talked to him for some scenario that you're still not like aware of yet. So there's this like scenario, we don't know what's happening. Basically, like some crap went down between her and James, Nora that is, and James, and so it's a big thing. So like Nora's freaking out, she's kind of upset, she's trying to like relax about the whole thing. Flo is Claire's friend, and she's kind of a freak. She's like obsessed with Claire. Like she wears like nearly the same outfits. She like talks on and on about her, and if anybody tries to like upset the hen party, Flo flies off the handle. Like this is supposed to be, she like cries. She's like, this is supposed to be a perfect party for like Claire. She's a perfect person, blah, blah, blah. And whoever know, like, I don't know what went down with that, but there's something there. So like they all like get drunk that night and like have a good time. And then Nina like mouths off about how like they're playing Never Have I Ever or however you play that game. And like Claire is like upset because, or Nina says something about like, well, I've never like slept with James or whatever. And so like the party gets like kind of weird because it's obviously just Claire and Nora that I've ever slept with James, and it's like a situation and it's a thing. So Nora goes upstairs, she's upset, they're trying to like get her down, but she's had too much to drink, so she's like, I'm just gonna stay here. Well, the next morning, Nora gets up to go for a run, and Melanie, the one with the baby, is downstairs. Melanie's like, I'm going home because, you know, I can't get a hold of my baby and I'm freaking out. The lines like are down or whatever. So like apparently like there was like, I don't know, Melanie leaves, Flo freaks out. Nina and Nora want to leave, but now they can't because like Melanie's already gone and they feel bad about it. So they like don't want to, you know, peace out too. So all this to go down, they go shooting that day, like to a shooting range or whatever. And they're all like shooting or something. And like it's flashing back and forth between now, like the situation at the hen party, and then now like it's like present time where Nora is in the hospital. She doesn't know what happened to her. She's like all bloodied and beaten up. She's like freaking out about whatever, and she doesn't know why she's there, and there's police wanting to talk to her. So she's like, crap. And then it says something about like a murder, and she's like, a murder? Like what happened? So then it flashes back to the hen party, And there's like this Ouija board, and there's like some stuff that goes down with that. There's like somebody pointing out that somebody's going to be a murderer or whatever. And they're all like freaking out, like, what's going on? What's going on? And so like they all go to bed and they hear like this door open like during the night or whatever. And they realize like that somebody's in the house. So they're all freaking out. They all go to grab the gun that's over the fireplace, which apparently is just loaded with blanks, says Flo, because it's her family's cabin or whatever. So she's like holding the gun or whatever, and then like Nora is like steadying the barrel and they're like pointing it at the intruder. They see the intruder downstairs and they're like, oh my gosh, it's like obviously a man. He's in like a black hoodie or whatever, and they're all freaking out. They don't know what to do. So as he's coming up the stairs, Flo's like, stop or whatever. And so she shoots the gun thinking that there's blanks in there, and there wasn't. So dude gets blown off the stairs. He's like laying in a pool of blood at the bottom of the stairs or whatever. They're all rushing down. And Nora gets down to see like where the bloodiness is and realizes it's flippin' James, man. Why is James there? James is at the hen party apparently, and he just got blown away by the shotgun that was supposed to have just blanks in it. So Nina, the doctor, is like trying to save him. Everybody's freaking out. Flo's freaking out. Everybody's freaking out. Claire's gone. No one can find Claire. Where the heck is Claire? Claire is apparently like calling the authorities or whatever because her fiance just got shot. So they're like trying to figure out how to like load him in the car or whatever. And so like they something on my nose, sorry. So they're like, what like are we gonna do for the like getting him in the car or whatever? So they try to get him in the car and they can't because he's too heavy and they don't want to like hurt him or whatever. So they like rip a door off the hinges, the front door or something, and they, put him on the front door and they take him out of the car. All of a sudden Claire's there and she's like, I'll drive. They're like, cool. So Claire is in the driver's seat. Nina's like, I'm going to run inside and get some supplies and then I'll be in the back or whatever. Nora, you go grab something and then we'll all meet at the car. They're like, okay. So James is in the car, Claire's in the car, Nina and Nora and Flo are all still back in the house, and all of a sudden Claire just like freaking drives off. And they're like, what? And so they're freaking out about that. Nora keeps having these visions of her like running through the woods, and then she's remembering that like after all this went down, she was running after the car with something in her hand. She can't remember what's in her hand. What's in her hand? What's in her hand? And the police are like, what was in your hand? She's like, I don't know what's in my hand. Her phone was missing half the time. Like she's at the hen party, which she didn't really care because she's like, oh, I must have just like left it in my bag or something. Who doesn't care that their phone's missing like for over a day? Like people would care about that. Anyway, apparently she doesn't. So her phone's missing. She doesn't care. Turns out that she's trying to figure out who did it, like who replaced the blanks with bullets or whatever, like who did this. So she is just one second. Sorry, my throat was scratching. All this talking for this book that I just read. Anyway, so she like gets to she's in the hospital. She's trying to figure out like why James died, like why was he at the house, all of this stuff. She finds out that James died, by the way. He's gone. He's done. So she's trying to figure out, like, he's saying as his dying breath to Nora, he said to her something about a text message. And she's like, I have no idea what you're talking about. Well, the police bring it up to her, and apparently from her phone, there's text messages from her to James saying, like, come please see me at the hen party. I want to talk to you. I want to, like, cover our history or whatever, and blah, blah, blah. And so she's like, all right. So she goes to do that. And she, like, she doesn't remember sending these texts. Like, she's like, that wasn't me. And the police are like, it's from your phone. Your phone was in the house. Like, it's pretty much a given it was you. And she's like, that wasn't me. I was missing my phone. And they're like, oh, okay. Missing your phone. Right. Like, you have a history with James. Yeah, the history with James starts to unfold and stuff. It's very sad. So she ends up escaping the hospital. The police don't see her. Flo, by the way, is so upset that she killed James that she tried to kill herself. So she is now dying in the hospital. Nora's in the hospital because of, the situation that she was in, like a car accident on the way to the hospital. Claire says she met her like in the woods or whatever and got into the car with Claire and James and whatever, and then like drove them off the road because she was so upset and didn't want like James to die or whatever. So like apparently she's the one who caused the accident. Apparently she's the one who sent the text messages. Apparently all of the stuff. And so she's like, I don't remember any of this. And they're like, well, sorry, it's pretty much you. So she decides to go back to the cabin at night. Why is this a thing? Why is going back to like a spooky place or a place of like bad things happening? Why is it at nighttime? It doesn't make any sense to me. There's literally nowhere that I go at night, like specifically on purpose. Like, why? Whatever. So she pays this cabbie who like gives her a ride out there, and he's like, are you sure you want me to drop you off? And she's like, yeah, I'm fine. Clearly she's not fine. She's like weak. She's recovering from like getting a bump on her head from the car accident. So she goes into the like cabin and she realizes she's not alone. So Claire was also in the car accident and she's pretty beaten up as well. And so she comes out and she's like, oh my gosh, Nora, I'm so glad you're here. And Nora's like, why are you here? And Claire's like, well, just because. And I'm like, okay. So Claire goes to make them tea. And she says something about like, the milk being sour and all they have is that's just the milk that they have, so they got to drink it anyway. And I'm thinking, yeah, this whole scenario is pretty sketchy, and I definitely wouldn't be taking tea from this broad when, first of all, why is she there? And second of all, this whole scenario has been kind of strange. And Claire is what, like the perfect one and blah, blah, blah. Like, why is she there? So Nora decides to drink the tea anyway. Fool. So she's drinking the tea and I'm like, this is a bad idea. She's still drinking it and they're talking and Claire starts going off and she's like, hey, so remember when you were dating James and this scenario with James comes out. Turns out Nora got pregnant by James. And so she went to talk to James about it. This was like when they were like, I think right after high school or something. And so James kind of like freaked out and is like, I don't know what to do. It's your problem or whatever. And she was like, or he like didn't say much or whatever. And she kind of like freaked out and left. So then he texts her the next day and he's like, yeah, it's not really my problem. It's yours. Like, please do not contact me again. And she's like, well, crap. And so then that's where like you realize all the heartbreak and upsetness about Claire and James and all of that stuff came about was this like pregnancy that I believe she did have it aborted. And so she's like dealing with all of that and then the hurt from James and all of that. And so Claire knows a ridiculously like a lot about this scenario, and Nora's kind of thinking like, yeah, I remember telling you about it and you walking me through it, but like how do you know so much? And then she realizes what James was trying to tell her in his dying breath was not about the text messages from him to go to the hen house, the hen at the like cabin house or whatever, cabin house. Goodness. Anyway, so she like, it was that the text message that he sent her about getting rid of the baby or taking care of it because it wasn't his problem wasn't him. Are you hearing me? It wasn't him. It was Claire. Claire had been in love with James since like the first day she saw him. She had told Nora that he was beautiful and he was going to be hers and she's going to marry him someday or whatever. And so Claire had always been upset because she had always been the one that gets what she wants. And then all of a sudden, like, Nora steps in and takes James. And Claire was like, not going to have it. So all that to say, James and Nora broke up for essentially no reason. They don't have a child now because of the text message that Claire sent her. Nora's upset. She's realizing that she got drugged by Claire. She finally realizes like the stuff at the bottom of her tea glass isn't, cream or whatever, it's drugs. So Claire had like given her the painkillers or whatever to like put her to sleep or something. Anyway, the police officer shows up and is like, oh my gosh. No, I am wrong. So Nora takes off. She's running again. Excuse me. So she's running through the woods again, except she's weak and tired and post-surgery or whatever. And Claire just can't catch her. There's no way. Like, Nora's a runner. So she gets in her car and she tries to speed off. And as Nora's trying to, like, run and whatever, she hears a car accident. Like, really? Okay, Claire gets into 2 accidents within, like, a week's time of her being... Okay, whatever. Anyway, so like Nora like goes to like investigate the car crash and she realizes that the police had tailed her there and were there trying to get her, and they found Claire and they realized it was Claire and blah, 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 blah. So now all of these people are dead. Flo died in the hospital, by the way. So like, James is dead, the baby isn't there, Claire is dead. Not Claire, I'm sorry, Flo. And all of these people have died because Claire is selfish and wanted what she wanted. And by the way, she didn't get any of that anyway. So, yeah. I mean, it was a pretty good book. I do like it when books kind of flop back and forth between, like, present and, like past, because I think it's kind of cool the way that they did it too, because she's trying to remember what happened, and as she's remembering, it's like a flashback to the hen party. I thought that was pretty cool and I really liked that. Overall, it was very compelling, held my attention. I really liked it. I think I'm gonna keep up on some audio books just so I can, be more productive and get more stuff done while still listening to more books. So if you have a recommendation of a book you would like me to read, please let me know. Put in the comments below, send me a message, text me, whatever. I would love to hear from you, and I would love to hear what you are reading. So my next book, I did not grab it, but I am listening. Let's see if I can put another picture in. I am listening to Thinner by Stephen King. I'm about halfway through, so I'll have notes for you on that one. As far as my paper copy book that I'm reading right now, I haven't decided, but I will let you know when I have decided. So, have a great night. Please send me any recommendations you have. I would love to hear from you. If you would send me your reviews on stuff, I would love to hear those as well. So thank you for tuning in, and I will see you